Hey, Smart Chiropractors. Welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. In today's featured guest segment, I am able to connect with somebody I guess I can call an old friend at this point in time, Dr. Cliff Tao. Cliff, thanks for coming on and chatting with us today.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Always good to chat with you.
You got it. And you are the first person that has brought their own personalized, professionally recorded introduction. And so I want to play that right now as we get started. Here we go.
Want more certainty with your x-rays? Want to streamline your workflow more so you can see more patients? Or just want to limit your liability with x-rays? Get a second opinion. Dr. Cliff Tao is a chiropractic radiologist and reads diagnostic imaging studies for all chiropractors. His professional, highly detailed reports are provided next business day with stat reports available same day. Head to clifftaodcdacbr.com for more information. That's Cliff Tao, TAODCDACBR.com today. You can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn.
There you go. An intro better than I could ever do myself. And for any docs out there that this is a news to them, you are a radiologist. And let's pick it up right there. I'd love to trace it back to the origin story. How the heck did you get interested in radiology as a chiropractor? How did it begin?
That's a good question. I always felt like it was right up my alley. And I think I told you this before, but my dad is a radiologist, now retired. He's a medical radiologist. He practiced for 40 years or something. But we have very similar tendencies. Like we love to analyze things like to a fault, like what's the saying, analysis paralysis? Like that's our gig. It doesn't matter, but that this makes us feel better. So we love analyzing things. We're not real social beings. Like we don't like talking to people all day and hearing their stories and doing all that stuff. But we like looking at their x-rays and stuff like that. So it's always been an interest to me. And I didn't know what I could do with it even before chiro school. But, as I started chiro school, I knew about the specialty in radiology. But I thought you had to be like super smart to do it. And, well, let me back up. So you do have to be super smart, but only in radiology. You don't need to know anything else. And so I'm like, I think I can do that. And so I started hanging out with the DAC bars where I went to school at National. I hung out with them, I would say, I think every morning. I got up early and I read x-rays with them for an hour or so before class started. And I did that for a couple of years. And I was like, it doesn't seem so hard. All they're doing is looking at pictures and saying what they think it is. I'm like, I think I can do that. And so I applied, I got in and passed the board exams and here I am. It's like almost 20 years later. It's incredible. I'm still alive and doing the same thing.
I think it's great. And with that, you've been at it quite a few years, and I'm sure that you've seen things change and evolve. Clearly, over the last few years, there's been a lot of questions in the chiropractic space. Do you shoot x-rays on everybody? Do you shoot x-rays on nobody? And the gamut is all over the place. I'd love to just ask you from an insight of what you've seen in the marketplace. How has imaging changed over those 20 years? Are docs going to other modalities such as MRIs and CTs more often? Do you still see X-ray being the staple item? What have you witnessed as the evolution of imaging has occurred over the last 20 years?
That's a big question. I would say for me, from a radiology practice standpoint, the biggest thing is digital radiography or digital imaging for that matter. When I started, 90% of all the stuff I read was film. Like we would actually have to put up, I still have my view box. It's right here. It's part of my lighting now. And, that's all we had. And when I got a CD in the mail, I was super excited. I'm like, this is super cool. I don't have to open an envelope. I can just throw the CD in there and I can window the image. I can change the contrast and the density. I can zoom in. I can measure stuff super accurately. But now we're like, I don't know, probably 99% digital. And if we get in a CD in the mail, we charge extra because I can't stand having to put the CD thing and it just takes too long. So that's been a huge change for us, good change.
Yeah.
That's, expanded our network. So now we're nationwide, maybe even a little bit more. But in terms of, all those other things, I think we can even divide into, our two factions of our profession, which, we serve kind of anyone with an X-ray. And so, on one side, we have our evidence-based chiropractors who adjust people, but who may not adjust people. Typically, they have a lot of things under their belt that they can do, and they may not need X-ray all the time, like our other chiropractors who, want to see the X-rays so they can calculate the listings, and that influences how they're going to adjust and, their technique and stuff like that. And so, for this side, the more subluxation or vitalistically, mechanically oriented, maybe, the emphasis is still hugely on X-ray. I'd say, maybe they're more likely to order other exams now than they were 20 years ago, but I wouldn't say it's significantly more. On the other side, they, not huge X-ray users. I feel like the utilization of MRI and other imaging modalities has increased a lot more on that end, at least, from what I see, because it fits the patient base and their, practice preferences a little bit better. They can get better information that influences how they're going to treat and manage those patients.
That makes sense. When you look at your day as a radiologist, what's it look like? I think many of us know, traditional clinical practice, going in, taking care of individuals. We sort of know how the day works and how the day runs. As a radiologist, what's a typical day look like for you?
So I have two answers for you. I have one answer before I started hiring people, and that is, I'd be reading films, films, digital stuff, probably 80 to 90% of the day. And then, I had maybe one part-timer staff and she did some of the admin stuff. But now we're pretty busy. I had to hire more staff, and, now we have a team of about 10 DAC bars. They're all part-time, so they all have, their own real gigs, and they just help me out. And now I've become known as like the admin guy. I'm handling all the calls, all the new doctor inquiries, any kind of, weird situations that come up. And I'm like the on-call guy. If there's a stat or rush request or a special, VIP patient or something, then, I try to handle those. So that's what I do, probably 80% of the day now. And then 20% of my day is reading the regular cases. So, but typically, we should be, we log into our computer and then there's a list. We call it the work list or caseload for the day, and just got to get through that list. One of the big things in radiology is turnaround time. And so, we operate it here. We're like, okay, we need to have good reports, so thorough, accurate, objective reports that are defensible. And we have to have, very good turnaround time. So typically we say, by end of next business day is what we say. So I tell all my guys, those are the two things. I already know you do good reports, just do it, by the end of next business day. Sooner the better. And if you can't, let me know, and then I'll mark it as a stat and I'll get it done. So that's how we operate every day. We try to keep normal business hours, but it's kind of hard, when we operate nationwide and we have to operate between a few different time zones. So sometimes, we got to get up early or stay late, or lately, I sometimes, not lately, but at some point in time during the pandemic, I had to work between when my kid went to sleep and after I got a nap. So I would work like between like 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. or something for a couple months. And thankfully we didn't have too much stuff to read for a couple months, so I could get it all done within a few hours. But so those are just some of the differences. I think they're good. We don't get as much social interaction. I love talking to other chiropractors. We don't talk to patients. In the past few years, we used to accept inquiries from patients if they contact us and they say, I need a second opinion on my MRI or something. We say, okay, yeah, we can do it. We would charge double. And they would do it. But now, I don't think double is enough. I'd have to charge them like, I don't know, 10 times, and I would feel bad for charging. So now I just say, just go to your chiropractor, and we'll talk to them, because well, I don't say this. I'm like, it's too hard for me to talk to patients, because I've been out of it for so long, and I don't like, the language is all wrong, and I get frustrated, and then I end up telling them off, and it's not good. So
you stay in your lane. I get it. When a doc starts working with you, so there probably are plenty of people listening and watching that maybe have read their own images, or they've really never worked with a provider like you in the past. How does the process work? If I'm a user, I'm a new doc that wants to utilize your service, how does the process work?
So yeah, we have a list of things we go through. The first thing is that, well, here's another interesting thing I think unique to radiology is that, at least in my practice, we don't take any cases from the state of Virginia. So like, if you're from Virginia, we send you to someone else, because we're not licensed there, and Virginia is very particular about, who should be licensed. So then, if you're not Virginia, then we'll say, okay, we assume you have digital X-ray in your office, and we have a few different options on how to send them, digitally. And, so we have different paid platforms that we pay for. Usually they're of no cost to the doctor, but we have them set up their X-ray machine so that they can easily send the X-rays to us. When they're set up properly, it's pretty amazing. It's like maybe 3 mouse clicks, Jeff, and so total time, on the doctor end is like 3 seconds to send something over to us, and then we get it probably within 3 to 5 minutes if good internet and all that stuff. And then once we get it, it pops up on our work list. Me or Betty, my manager or office assistant, she'll assign them to one of us. We have our own little algorithm on who to assign and all this stuff. And then it gets done. You get an email with a report by the end of next business day.
That sounds very, very streamlined and easy. I'm sure it took a little work to get there, but the users certainly appreciate it, and I would appreciate it. You love seeing the process be easy on the doc. A question I have for you is, with the volume of films that you get, out of my own curiosity, how many are normal? How many have abnormal findings? How many have advanced pathology? Not to the number, but what are you seeing just in general? If you were to take, many docs have a pretty limited view into that based upon their patients, which might be a certain patient type. But as you service hundreds, if not thousands of docs around the world, what are you seeing in terms of what you get day in and day out?
That's a good question. There's not many that are completely 100% normal. I'd say probably less than 5%. And, most of what we see are spines. It's probably like 90 to 95% spines. And, so you could have a seemingly normal person, right? Walk into your office, no pain, and they're just there for wellness. And you take an X-ray. Oh, there's loss of lordosis. Okay, yeah, that's a finding. So that's super common, right? But yeah, very few that are truly negative. But I feel like we probably read more into these things. I mean, I don't know. That's how I was trained, and that's how I tell my DAC bars. And I think they were trained the same way. I say, let's call everything on the X. We don't know if they're clinically relevant or not, because we don't know, what the exam findings are, at least not to any great detail. So I'm like, if there's anything that could possibly be clinically relevant, we got to put in the report, because, it could make a difference. So, our reports compared to, say a typical medical radiologist report, I find are one longer, but, two more clinically relevant to the chiropractor.
Yep.
Probably not clinically relevant to the average MD, but, we don't really read. Well, actually, we started reading for one MD. There's a minor tangent here. So, you ask about how much pathology or maybe what kind of pathology, but it's very clear to me that as chiropractors, we don't see a whole lot. I mean, we see people with degenerative disease and stuff like that. We just started reading CBCTs for this one medical doctor out in Florida, out near you, and Oh man, we see some crazy stuff that we had never seen before. We, learned about it in school during the residency, and we're like, oh, now we're actually seeing these things, and they're clinically relevant. I mean, I had to call the office just yesterday and say, hey, this guy's got a mass in his throat. Not sure if he can breathe, but you should probably not be hanging around your office too long. So, yeah, we have way more of those with this MD guy than I've ever had with any chiro over the past 20 years. So it's a big difference. But I think it's good, at least for us to, it kind of reminds us that, oh, we can see these other things. And we'll see the same conditions maybe from a chiropractor, but just not as frequent. It'll be, I don't know, like once a year we'll see a mass in the neck. But here with this MD, it's like every week we'll see something crazy.
Different patient population, that's for sure.
Definitely.
For the docs that perhaps have never utilized an independent radiology service to review their films, what would you say? I guess I'm trying to get a feel for if a doc's listening right now and perhaps they've shot some of their own images, they feel comfortable with the line drawings that they're doing or the basic analysis that they perform. Very clearly, most chiropractors out there understand that there's a difference in attention to detail and expertise between what they're able to accomplish and what a professional DACBAR and chiropractic radiologist is able to accomplish. But quite often, and correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't necessarily translate to, an overwhelming majority of docs using an independent service. How you're on one side of that equation, of course, being a radiologist, but how do you view that? What sort of tips, advice, insight would you offer to the docs that are currently reading their films, and why should they consider having an independent physician, a chiropractic radiologist, check out those films?
I kind of have a dynamic answer, I'll say. I've had different answers over the past 20 years. Not that much different, maybe more my tone, Jeff. In the beginning I would like, how can you read these yourself? You're not really trained. But then they wouldn't like me and it wouldn't be good for business because they would not send me anything. So now I still say the same thing, but I think I'm a little bit nicer now, Jeff. So I'm still learning. But generally I say, best case scenario, just as a blanket statement, it's best if someone else reads these if you're taking them in your own office, right? If you're the only one looking at it as the chiropractor, have an expert look at it. DACBAR, it would probably be best, but it could be a medical radiologist. And that's more, med-legal wise, even if you're cash based, right? If you miss something or even if you overcall something, that could be detrimental for your patients. Doesn't happen often. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but the other flip side is, how many bad malpractice cases does it take, to ruin your life? I'd say probably just one. Yeah. So, I don't want to use fear as a tactic, but so I say that, at best practice or best case scenario, you should have all these things read. But, I understand everyone's practice is different. And if, you can't be sending everything else if you can't afford it, right? If your practice shuts it down because I'm soaking up all your money, that can't happen either. So you got to find something that fits with your practice, I think, without having to, change too many things around. You want to make it, I'm a big efficiency guy and I like to streamline things. I don't want our process to slow you down or bog you down that it impacts your bottom line or worse, the patient's health, right? So if you can swing it, if you can work it into your new patient workflow, then I think it's better not only for the patient but better for the chiropractor, and dare I say I think it's even better for the profession.
I could not agree more. As you look towards the future of radiology, whether it's more dynamic imaging modalities, perhaps it's more refinement of what we've done in the past, what are you seeing over the next 5 to 10 years in the space of radiology that gets you excited?
Oh, there's some new stuff out there. Like I mentioned with that one MD, He has a CBCT, which I'm sure you've heard of, but for your listeners who haven't heard of it, it's called cone beam CT. So it's like a little mini CT that you can have in your office. A lot of upper cervical chiropractors have it, but dentists are the biggest user of these machines, and they use it for implant planning or something. But the upper cervicals are right in there, so the upper cervicalists love it. And we see them every day here. So that was super cool technology for us to start looking at. I mean, we've read CTs before, but not to the extent that we're doing now. We probably see 5 to 10 CBCTs a day now here. And there's other imaging technologies that I hope people will start using more. I mean, they've been out there. MRIs, for example. I love looking at MRIs. I don't know. It's more just my own selfish reasons. I think it's just super cool to see all that extra stuff that you would never see on an X-ray. Even video fluoroscopy. It's just like an X-ray, but now there's more motion that you can tell if things are moving around a little bit better. There was this X-ray I saw the other day, and I never heard of it. Maybe you have, Jeff, but it's like you can take X-rays and you can do like the fluoro DMX style stuff. I don't think at the same time, but that looks super cool to me. But we don't read any, or at least I don't think we have any docs that have that machine. There's this other one. I think it's outpriced for chiros. I want to say it's like $500,000 to buy this machine. So probably not going to see it in your typical chiro office, but it's called an EOS slot scanning X-ray. And so what it does is it takes your full spine, but it like the tube moves up and down. So it does the AP and lateral at the same time. The image quality isn't quite as good as a plain X-ray, but if you're just looking at alignment, then it's wonderful because it's super low radiation dose, super quick. I see it used at a lot of offices in Australia for some reason. And then some spine ortho guys use it here in the US. It's not super common, but maybe the price will come down and it'll be, more available or easier. I don't know. I don't think it'll ever get down to the price where chiros can afford it, but I think it's super cool. It's like a whole body AP and lateral view in like a minute or two. And there's no distortion from beam divergence. It's always like a right angle shot. So it's pretty cool.
That is definitely fascinating, and I know we are getting tight on time, and your professional intro said it all, but I want to make sure that docs know, where can they learn more about your services? How can they connect with you and get started?
However they want to get a hold of me, I'll answer. So I'm pretty active on Facebook and on LinkedIn. You can Google my name, Cliff Tao. I hope something will pop up there where you can contact me, or they can email me, cliff@clifftao.dcdagbar.com, or they can contact me through the website, like my little commercial suggested as well.
That is fantastic. Cliff, thanks for taking some time out of your day, coming on, chatting about radiology. And docs, I'm going to encourage, if you are still reading your own films, as Cliff elegantly said, I'll perhaps be a little bit more forceful. It is a really great idea to have a professional chiropractic radiologist overread at the bare minimum. If not, do the read for you. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you mind share. And it's going to be something where you are doing your patient the best service. So get out there, check out what Cliff is up to, and hopefully we'll see you on the next episode. Cliff, thanks for coming on and chatting with us today.
Thanks for having me, Jeff, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.